Welcome everybody to the City Brew Tours Beer Club, and I'm Jonathan. I'm your host, and I am not alone this month. I know you guys, you liked it. You liked the little one-person show. However, I am joined by Ethan. Ethan, come say hello.
Hi. Oh my gosh. Yeah, you invited, you got to do a solo show and you invited me back. That's so
I know, I know.
fun.
It was, it was fine. It was.
Here's the thing, Jonathan, you are always great on your own, and I'm just happy to get to hang out and have some beers and chat with you.
And for those that may or may not remember Ethan, Ethan's been on the show many, many a times. Fellow New Yorker, which is
Mhm.
perfect for this episode.
Very
For
auspicious.
oh,
It's kind of our backyard, except not quite. We'll get into that.
our front yard, backyard,
It's the porch.
the porch. Is
I
it the
like that.
porch of? Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's the playground of New
Ooh,
York City.
there
There
you
you
go.
go.
I like that.
I like that. But welcome, Ethan. How have you been in this hot weather beer drinking time?
Well, I mean, it is the correct time to have beers. Let's be clear, because it is just brutally hot here in New York City, and I'm sure in our location of choice. But I've been well. I love the summers here. I love summer period. I love a summer in New York City. Not only is it a great time to hang out, but I feel like people are coming together. Now is the time when I try and find my rooftop drinking spots or my beer gardens. Like, now is the time when I want to be out drinking a beer. And it feels like, the weather is helping,
Yeah,
encouraging us, I guess,
yeah,
maybe.
yeah. To a point, because it's like, oh, I want to go outside, I want to drink a beer, and then after about like 20 minutes, it's like it's really humid and I should go into the AC. That's how I feel. The beer does help though. The beer does help. And
Oh.
definitely lighter beers,
Mhm.
things that are easier to drink, lower ABVs, which is why the two that we have today are perfect for this. We've got a session stout and a nice raspberry sour from two of our, obviously, our good friends over at Wayward Lane and
Mhm.
Westkill, which we'll talk more about Wayward Lane in just a minute. But how much time have you spent up in Hudson Valley or
I
Hudson?
The Hudson Valley, yeah. So for those of you who are like orienting ourselves, right? Hudson Valley is going to be a little further north of the five boroughs in New York, where we call home. And it's just an absolutely gorgeous part of the state, really beautiful, and has seen a huge resurgence or a huge development and production of beer, with amazing tap rooms, beautiful views, excellent creative brewers who are doing really cool things. I've spent some time up there. I mean, I
Yeah,
don't, like most people who live in the five boroughs, I don't have a car, but I have had people who have access to a car that have
of
brought me up
course.
there. And some additional work that I've done has taken me to those areas. And so whenever I find my way up into the beautiful Hudson Valley, even if I'm taking the train up, Metro North is our easy way to get up there. I always make a point to see what brewery is doing what interesting thing. And the nice thing is, many of them will, of course, distribute down to us. So I
Always.
feel like these are like beers that many, they're destination beers. You want to go to their brewery and you want to try them, but also we're starting to get the opportunity to have them a little bit closer to home. So I love it up there. How about you,
Yeah.
Jonathan? When
No, I love it up there. Every fall,
mm,
we go up to the Hudson Valley, sometimes over the Catskills, but kind of in that region, especially in the fall because of the apples and like the fruit and the foliage, and it's beautiful. But also, as you mentioned, like there's just great breweries and obviously wineries and cideries and just nothing. There's no shortage of things to do because like I can walk up the Empire State Building, right? But like
that's
walking
true.
up a mountain is a little more exciting.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, usually more exciting. But otherwise, it also has all that history. I also love the fact that it's a very loose border of exactly what is the Hudson Valley.
Exactly.
Depending who you talk to,
Mhm.
uh, in theory, goes up to Albany, might
Okay.
go past, depends. Obviously, it starts down again. Do we do Yonkers? Do we go north of there?
Right.
And that's kind of what I love about like the Hudson Valley as our region for beer for this box, it gives us a lot to play with, and it
Well,
gives us a lot of distance.
and lest we forget, Hudson Valley gets its name from the Hudson River, which, if I recall correctly, is one of the longest rivers here in the
Yeah.
United States. And it flows basically from the Adirondack Mountains all the way out to the Atlantic. And is a beautiful space with gorgeous bluffs and views that you can enjoy, and really kind of making this area so fertile as a place that people want to live, but also for all the production that happens in that
And
town.
even though we have all of this beautiful things, beautiful water, longest river, and tons of history, it is time to start drinking.
I would
So
agree. I would fully
I
agree.
I
So
was
what are we
getting
doing
on.
first?
So we are actually going to do from our friends at Wayward Lane. We are actually going to start with their session stout, their Earthrise on the Moon.
Ooh,
And so sometimes we always talk about here, and we talk about in all of our beer ventures that we want to start with the lightest in flavor, work our way in boldness. The great thing about session stouts and sour, it's a kind of the same intensity, just in different ways.
very true.
And so, sometimes if I have a lighter stout, I like to start with that versus the sour that might be a little tart, could get some flavors in there, kind of can overpower the stout at times. But we also have our friends here, so we're gonna pour this beautiful session stout.
Just look at how gorgeous that is. It's got that beautiful head. I poured mine a little bit in advance because I've already been treating myself to it.
Well, as you
And I can
should.
already tell you this is a delightful beer. So take a look at that gorgeous thing right there. Look at how kind of beautifully dark and chocolatey it looks.
Yeah, you got that nice, the colors that you want from a stout,
Mm.
the aromas you want from there.
Good roasting toast.
But oh yeah, you get that nice little chocolate, little roastiness. But before we can, we just got to start drinking. And I know all of our listeners and viewers, they're thirsty. So cheers, everyone. There we
Cheers.
go. We're going to enjoy this.
Mm, mm,
And that's what I want. That's exactly nice, light. You do get that coffee, a little bit of that
mm.
dark chocolate in there, but overall, easy drinking, very,
Yeah,
very light body. It's not overpowering. Definitely has, for me, that's like a slightly more coffee brown ale,
yeah,
because it's such that nice light session low ABV, and you do not have that thick body that you get with like pastry stouts or
exactly.
anything like that.
Well, and if I recall correctly, it clocks in at about 4.5.
Yeah.
So it's the kind of thing that you can knock back a couple and still, manage yourself as you're
Yes.
working through this. And I know there is debate from some of our seasonal drinkers out there about when stout season is. And with a beer like this, I believe that stout season could be any season.
100%. This is an all season stout. Obviously, some people are like, no, it's only in the winter, cold months. Again, it's hot outside. It's nice. It's beautiful. I'd have this on a rooftop.
Oh,
Why
for sure.
not? Or on the beach.
Or
But either way, it's going to be nice, easy drinking. And before we can even just, we could talk all night. I know
that's
that
true.
you and
We
I, we
do.
eat, we drink, talk. That's what we do. We drink and know things. That's us. However, we do have a guest. We do have Kyle.
So
We're gonna
excited.
bring Kyle. Come on in. We've got the head of business operations over at Wayward Lanes. How are you
Howdy.
doing?
Yeah, I'm
Howdy.
good.
Oh my gosh.
How you
And you
guys doing?
We're doing.
fantastic.
I'm just drinking right now, so
Yeah,
I'm
well,
having a
cheers.
good
I don't
time.
I don't have Earthrise on the Moon, but I have our Grzycki actually. So
Nice,
also very light, easy drinking. Yeah.
nice.
Well, I got to ask because for those who this is an audio experience, but I do need to describe that right now, Kyle,
Oh
you
yeah.
look like you are in a beautifully sort of like overstuffed almost attic of a space that's got wood
Yeah,
beams and everything. Are you on grounds currently
I
or?
am on grounds. Yeah. I'm upstairs in our office space. So we renovated an old like 1800s hop house into the brewery production space and tap room. So right above the tap room is our office, dry storage, like employee space. And yeah, kind of retrofitted it to house the brewery production space in the back as well. So
Nice. And tell
yeah,
us a little bit. I mean, again, we could just drink and just chat about everything,
of
whether it's the Hudson
course.
Valley or the beer scene, especially
Yeah,
since there are so many breweries in
there's a lot
Hudson
talking of
Valley.
all the time.
Uh,
Yeah,
and I know that even one of the last statistics, I'm obviously the stats change almost weekly at this point, definitely
sure.
monthly, but that the Hudson Valley was providing almost 20% of the breweries for New York State is
Really?
what I
Wow.
read. I don't know if that's
Okay.
still up, but in definitely in those numbers.
Very possible.
Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
with us having over 500, I think almost 550 now in the state.
Wow.
I mean, that's still a lot.
Crazy.
That's a lot in there.
Yeah,
And but
that is a
again,
lot.
that's such a large area. And you guys are one of the new kids on the block, been around since about 2021, right?
2021. Yep, yep. So we're just over 3 years old. May was our 3 year anniversary. So still pretty fresh. We're all new around this area, so like still establishing ourselves, but also distribute a pretty heavy amount to the New York City area, which definitely has helped like broaden our reach for sure.
Yeah,
Nice.
and one of the things, because I've had some of your beers, sort of locally and here in
Yeah,
chunk of New York, I'm just wildly impressed by the kind of variety of things that you guys are putting out.
yep,
Especially, I've had some delightful lagers from you. I've had some excellent IPAs.
sure.
I also know that you guys have a cool ship and do wild ales.
We do, yeah, yeah.
Talk,
That's like directly behind me. It's right in the area where they actually used to dry the hops. So it's like a little elevated from the office space, but redid the floor in there to house the weight of the cool ship along with that's where all of our barrels are for all the cool ship beers, along with any of our mainly Brett Saisons and soon to be some more wild fermentation uh, passion project, if you would. We're
nice.
on 65 acres here in Schoharie, which is about 45 minutes west of Albany. And one of my business partners, there's four of us. One of them is his one of his larger roles is kind of property management along with our fruit production. So we have about 4 acres of what we're calling like an orchard, permaculture orchard. I think he's up to like 200 trees and shrubs. The shrubs up that number quite a bit, but he's up to quite a few different plants that we're planning to use for those more fun, cool ship and wild beers and Brett beers. So that was kind of something that we started since the beginning. And fruit production, we're now on year 3 in the orchard, where we're hoping to. We still need to implement like a freezer or something to house the fruit once it's all ready, but we're going to be starting to use those in the beers in the coming years. The cool ship beers obviously take a very long time, and we, you know, come from none of us really have done any cool shipping. We enjoy drinking them. We know a lot of friends who have done it, and we've gained as much knowledge as possible, but there's a lot of trial and error things. So we haven't released anything yet because we're still kind of working through some of the kinks just to get everything just right before putting it out. But yes, we are utilizing the cool ship here and there, and I'm probably going to start doing some more even like just open fermentation, maybe not traditional lambic beers in there, just to kind of broaden and utilize the cool ship itself a little bit more. So
That's really cool. And I think that's kind
yeah,
of the fun thing, especially if you have the history of that location, but also the ability and the space to be able to have just just to have a cool ship, because a lot of places
sure,
don't have that ability.
yeah.
But then also to have the land to grow your produce. How much of like New York City ingredients do you guys try to use within like within your ingredients list?
Yeah, yeah. So it's because of the vast, like Ethan said, because of all the vast styles that we do. We definitely reach from many parts of the world to grab different ingredients. So, New York, it is awesome that there are so many incentives and different, farms opening up, growing a lot of different hops and different, barley and things. But we usually have one New York beer on at a time. I will say all of the cool shit batches, those are 100% New York grown. So everything from the hops and obviously the yeast, and the barley is all from New York. And so we filter through beers fairly quickly. So I'd say, we probably brew in New York under the New York. I forget what it's at right now. It's getting up there, like 60 to 80% of the
Yeah.
ingredients to be classified. So I think we have one every couple months, let's say, and I know that's increasing. That is 100%, or sorry, not 100%, but meets the New York requirements of like the ingredients. And we do like pester in a little bit of like different hops or grains in some of the beer, but usually most of it is from elsewhere. So yeah,
Nice. And obviously you want to try, if you're doing like a Grzycki or a Kolsch style, you want to try and stay as
yeah,
traditional. And
we try
sometimes
our
that's
hardest.
it's a
Yeah,
little hard with
it's
New York
hard,
malts. You can
you
do it,
know.
but like
Yeah,
it's not the same.
right. Of course. Yeah, we do try and stay as true to the style, which is really fun for us, like having a very large variety of different beers and challenging all at the same time. We use, a lot of breweries, I feel like they have their house yeast or they have a couple yeasts they work with. We use a lot of different yeasts. We reach out to many different hop growers, a lot of different malt suppliers. Every beer is very much catered specifically to that style. Which makes it fun because there's always something new and interesting, and I feel like it can kind of set us apart by having just like different flavors all the time. So
That's really cool. I mean, again, that's how you guys are able to have such of that diverse tap list
right,
of having that
yeah,
flexibility with it. Not
yeah,
that a farmhouse brewery, like a New York farmhouse brewery, that has to meet those requirements on every beer. Not that they don't have
right, yeah,
diversity, but it's
sure,
definitely a challenge at times
yeah,
and there may be
no
certain
doubt,
styles that they may not get to do as often just because of availability of ingredients.
of
But
course,
with that, so you guys started in 2021, right after the pandemic, which is
yeah,
always
yeah,
fun. And as all of
right,
our listeners know, we talked about a brewery, one of our breweries last month out of Asheville. They started at 2020. And so obviously that
okay, yeah,
impacts kind of how you guys operate. But what
yeah,
has been that journey for Wayward Lanes of coming right out of that? And then
yeah,
you guys, I'm hoping you guys are all friends or were friends,
yeah,
coming
we are, yeah.
together. And kind of what is that kind of beginning origin kind of starting story of Wayward Lane and kind of where you guys have gone from that beginning to now,
Sure, sure.
if
So
that's
the
possible to
origin
answer.
story, yeah, I mean, I'll try and keep it short because you know, there's a lot of depth to it. So we originally all met in Colorado. I'm from Colorado. My business partner Adam, who he is the head brewer here, me and him met in middle school. So he originally started his career in mobile canning, one of the very first mobile cannings in Colorado. And he started working there for a couple of years. They started the franchise, and he was training people to start their own mobile canning in different states. Knew that he wanted to get into the brewing industry and got a professional job at River North Brewing in Denver, where he brewed for a good number of years. While we were living together, while he's mobile canning, he was home brewing, and I just kind of jumped in with him. We started just diving really deep into it, and really found a serious passion that I think both of us enjoyed. And all the meanwhile, he met his now wife, originally from New Jersey, in Colorado, and we also met Andrew. His wife is Abby, and Andrew, who he's the farm manager in college at CU Boulder. We started the business in 2016, where it was just the three of us. It was Abby, myself, and Adam. trying to open the business in Colorado. So Colorado being a very competitive market, saturated, all while being expensive. So, having some small amount of family money to work with, we were trying to get creative on trying to find more of the more mountainous towns, Crested Butte, Glenwood Springs, Durango, areas that were still saturated because everywhere was kind of saturated, but areas where we thought we could thrive. And it was just challenging to find just the right spot. Where we are now in Schoharie is Andrew's family's property. So he used to come here as a kid back when he was younger, and his grandma passed away who owned the property, and he moved out here a few years prior to us to kind of rejuvenate the farm, try and do something different. And he knew we were struggling to find a place, and he ended up calling us up and pitching the New York idea and like, hey, I have this property in a market that wasn't quite yet tapped, like Colorado, like not quite hitting that boom of like the craft beer scene. And he's like, I have this barn. It's like old 1800s, no plumbing, no electricity, like I have a building, something that has a frame structure. And, we were skeptical, but also like, let's go and check it out. So we flew out here in 2017 in the middle of summer, and did a bunch of brewery tours, like farm brewery specific, like things that we were kind of like geared towards, like, hey, if we opened here, this is kind of what we were thinking about like accomplishing, and showed us the property. And a year later, we decided to move out here. So that was about 2018, moved out here, about a year of planning. Longer than we anticipated, as I'm sure every brewery owner would tell you, 2 years of construction. We had to undergo a lot of other challenges that we never really anticipated, being we're on a well. So, having to deal with, the water supply, making sure it would be sufficient and good enough quality for what we're trying to brew here. Septic system, an old barn that we had to redo the whole foundation, lift the whole barn up off the foundation, pour all new footing walls and new flooring, everything. Things that, you go into it, you're already living here, you're committed, and it's like, we have to keep going, and so we went through a lot of heavy foundation work. But then at that point, we were really in here by ourselves doing most of the work. As soon as the heavy lifting was done, concrete work, we really, the reason I think why it took 2 years is because it was really all of us in here, like constructing the bathrooms, building the cooler, like hanging drywall, doing mudding, taping, like cleaning the beams, because it was essentially just a big birdhouse before we got in here, and designing and building the glycol system and setting the tanks, it's like things stacked on that you never really consider when you're home brewing and you have this like amazing idea to open a brewery. But it's something that I really enjoy, even if it did take 3 years to open. But I think we were also a little blessed in the sense of where we are in this area when COVID happened and what we were doing, because it was just us in the brewery working, and COVID happened, and we didn't know a lot of people around here, so we just kind of just kept on doing what we were doing the whole time, just kept on building everything. And we were luckily able to get materials, and at the time that we were finally ready to open and all the mask mandates were getting lifted, we are lucky to have a very wide open space, very large outdoor space. The brewery has 2 garage doors that open up in the front and the back, so a lot of cross breeze. So like at the time that we opened, we were fairly lucky to be able to have people here. It was also summer. April, we opened for just to go beer sales out of the tap room, and then a month later we opened for on-site. So it was challenging no matter who you are, really, but I think we were lucky in the sense of like where we were and what we were doing. So I think that's kind of the short side of it.
No, that's amazing. And I think that's kind of the consensus I get from a lot of brewers that start up like themselves. Like they
Yeah, of
are home brewers or their buddy's a home brewer, and then they're like, I
course.
like beer too, and I like business, and let's make this
Yep.
happen. And
Yeah.
we've featured on the podcast and with like our holiday boxes beers from Colorado, and like we love those guys over there,
Sure.
but there's
No
a
doubt.
lot there's a lot
There is a lot. Yeah.
in a very
Yeah.
small
Very
space.
competitive market.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
And New York is not any less competitive, but it
Right.
definitely in the
Much more
Hudson
spread
Valley.
apart.
Exactly. We got a little more
Yeah.
space, just a little bit.
Yeah. A little bit. Yeah. For
And so
sure.
that's great.
I was trying to figure out how you
Yeah.
found the 1800s hop house to put something in because that feels just perfect. But what a great story
You know,
there.
it was wild. It was wild that it was already here, like when, it was Andrew. Andrew remembers coming up here like when he was younger and playing around in the barn, which was really just like a storage for the tractor. And the whole back area was lined with brick. It still had all the original like slatted floor upstairs where they had burlap down. We actually have the old scuppets, is what they called it, which were like the scoops that they would also line with burlap, and they would like scoop up the hops, and then that's when they would like bag it or bale it. We actually have it's 100% New York ingredient hazy pale ale called Scuppet. We kind of like tried to bring it full around there, but it is cool to be able to bring the barn back full circle and like have more beer inside of it. Yeah.
Well, and I think that's one small point of history that a lot of people are not aware of is that New York State in the
Yeah.
1800s, right around the 1880s, was the largest hop fields in the country until
Yeah.
there was a hop light.
Yeah.
But, and
Hope
now
light.
obviously
Yeah.
it's all over in Washington and Yakima.
Right. Yeah.
But for a small moment of time,
Uh-huh.
New York had that. And so there were a lot of hop houses and a lot of those farms
There's a lot up
that
here. Yeah.
there's a lot
Yeah.
that now are just either, unfortunately, some got torn down, renovated,
Yeah.
but it is cool that you guys, I mean, it seemed like it was just meant to be that,
Yeah.
not
It's
only
wild.
did you guys get to put it into a hop house, but it was one of the guys, like part of your business partners. That's just
Sure.
like one in a million kind of things. Which
Right.
whether you believe in fate or not, it works. It works.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's
Yeah.
awesome. And so, and I know that I know you're a very busy fellow and you've had a very busy day I know you guys are expanding your canning and everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
And obviously you guys I know you have to also work on your deliveries as
Mm.
well. But kind of with all of this, with expansion and over the years,
Sure.
kind of what is your delivery rate radius right now? Because
Uh-huh.
I've seen and had your beers in New York as well. But we have
Great.
listeners and viewers all over the country. So
Oh,
is
of
there a
course.
way, like how far do you guys deliver? And
Yeah.
also what's your, I'm not going to say your 5, 10, 15-year plan, but what
Uh,
is like the future of
sure.
Wayward Lane kind of look for
Sure.
you
Yeah.
guys?
Always the question. Of course, man. Well, um, so at least our reach right now is still within the New York border. We have done some festivals outside of New York, some things in DC where the laws are a little bit more relaxed, easy for us to get beer there. But really, um, we've established 5 routes throughout New York that we self-distribute. I handle all of the capital region, Mohawk Valley, and the greater New York City area. My business partner Andrew, he handles like Cooperstown, Oneonta, all the like Hudson, Catskills area, along with like the Hunter, Wyndham, more mountainous towns. And then we just signed on with Serene to handle Western New York. So we've been really excuse me, we've been really trying to get our beer out there, and really with us handling so many other aspects of the business, all while doing all the self distribution. It's almost just as much of a New York City delivery, which usually for myself is 14 on the minimum hour day. Usually it's a little bit longer. It's a hefty day, so to be able to add that on was like just not feasible. So we signed on with them. I'm going to say about 5 or 6 months ago. We've done about 4 pickups. So we've just started getting beer out in the western side of New York, which has been amazing. They're great to work with. And literally this morning, we just launched shipping all across New York State. So we will ship in full cases anywhere in New York, along with any of our merchandise or any other items. So that's been a brand new thing we just launched. So hopefully we can just like broaden that aspect of where the beer gets to, because we can't really cover it all. We're still a pretty small brewery. We're on an oversized 7-barrel system. We're operating in 750 square feet as the production space. It's like it's a 2-story hop house, but it's sectioned off into the tap room, production. Up above is the office, and then the barrel room, cool ship room. So very small space where we've squeezed just about as many tanks as we can possibly fit in there with the keg washer. And so the beer right now is it's going very quickly. So the guys in the back are definitely pumping. A tank will empty, we'll either fill it right away or it'll be a couple days. So it's like we're turning really fast, to where it is a little bit more challenging maybe for us to think about trying to get the beer in other states. That being said, it's maybe not completely out of the question in the future. Right now I think our focus, being new and really trying to, our biggest draw is we are a destination brewery. We're trying to draw as many people back into the tap room. So the thought is like the closer we can get it to people's hands, the more people we can draw back here, And so I think we're still on the trajectory to focus still on New York within the next couple of years. But 5-10 year plan is ever evolving. We're always talking about it. New York City's been a huge draw for us, and I think it's a great market for us to potentially think about opening an offsite tap room. So it's been talked about of like doing something down there. I think we are lucky in the sense where we have a very cheap, large space that we can do all the production, but then, kind of maybe the opposite of a lot of other breweries in New York that are like running a very large production facility and trying to open other places upstate. We're thinking about doing the opposite, like having a little bit more of a produce it up here, transport it down there, tap room down there. It's a thought. I don't know with any of these things, what will happen, but it's definitely fun to think about. I do enjoy delivering to New York City, and I think it would be very successful. Along with expansions on the brewery production space itself, because we're maxing it out right now. So, we have beautiful thing about having so much land and space and living where we are. We can just add on, if we have the money, add on to the back. So if once the time makes sense, the timing is just right, then I think that would be something we would be looking for in the years to come. But right now we're really kind of focusing on just efficiency, getting things as efficient as we can so that we can stay within the constraints of the production space, all while getting creative with the tap room and events. We're trying to do very fun, 1 month or each month we do one kind of fun event. We host actually monthly we host a farmers market with 20 or so vendors in the beer meadow. We have a big outdoor stage, so we have music in the back. We do a trebuchet event, so it's a large medieval catapult. We launch pumpkins. That's been a fun one. We just incorporated last year. We do a tree burning. Like everyone brings all their Christmas trees in January. We have a big bonfire in the back. This month we're doing a field day, like an adult style field day, like from when you were like, a kid in elementary school, kind of focused around drinking. So we're trying to have fun. We're trying to have fun up here and make it a big draw. And I think that's always what we're trying to do is be, same thing with the beers, like be, be creative and like do different things. And yeah, I think that's where we're trying to go. So.
No, that's awesome. And I mean, the thing is with beers as good as you're putting out, it is a destination to get there, but with the beauty of the space and the incredible beer you got, seems like definitely worth the trip for folks who may not have
right. It's the summertime, even in the winter, it's a little bit more confined, but it's beautiful up here. It really is a good time. We have also a permanent dumpling wagon, or they call themselves the dumpling wagon. So Asian pan-fried dumplings on the property. So always some great, like fun Asian food with some tasty beers.
Well, why didn't you lead with that? I mean,
man.
the dumplings and like, oh yeah, we got beer. Oh yeah, we got dumplings. No, like we got this dumpling wagon and we make beer. No, I think, and that's always kind of the good thing, right? Of especially being a destination, of having that relationship with like a local restaurant or food vendor.
It's been amazing.
Yeah, because you're going to be there and people get hungry because they get thirsty
no
and
doubt
then they get hungry.
do.
Yeah, and it also is probably better for you guys to control the masses if there's a little food in the belly. Of
course, a little food. Yeah, people are traveling no matter what. I mean, we do have a great local like draw, but got to keep people safe and fed.
100%. And I always like to ask, like, how big your system is, and what you guys are doing on 7 beer barrels is amazing. I mean, I know it's a lot of work because you're like cranking them out as much as you can. And it always impresses me because like you see like the large systems, and even if it's like a 15 tin beer barrel, but it's there's a lot of these smaller breweries in that area, as well as other parts of New York, especially like near the Finger Lakes and stuff, that are operating on like 5, 8, 10, and they're just cranking out. And I think that's one of the cool things about all these small breweries, like you guys are, like, you're just cranking out beer and you're doing it well, and you're like, we're gonna have fun, we're gonna use these cool ingredients, we're gonna make things that we like, but also you're there to sell beer. And I think that's kind of the fun thing of, you're doing some nice traditional styles, but now, with the cool ships, you're just like, what happens if we open it up and let the yeast fall in? Let's see. And I think that's great. I think that's cool.
Yeah. No
nice. And with that, I know I'm getting thirsty because I actually just drank that whole 16-ounce way too fast.
Cheers to that.
But I do, for all of our viewers and listeners, I do have, I am going to crack open our second beer, which is from our friends over at West Kill Brewing with their Creekside, which is a raspberry sour. And so it's not always fun to have kind of different styles and kind of play around. And, this one is exactly what we're hoping for. Literally that raspberry, nice pink color, nice, lovely little head on there. And, again, another small brewery cranking out fun styles, just kind of having fun with it. And this is a beautiful looking beer, and it smells like raspberry.
Well, and Kyle, I imagine you've got deliveries to make, so we'll send you off on your adventures if you need to.
Yeah, thank you, Ethan and Jonathan, for having me and Wayward Lane. Cheers.
No, cheers. And if
swinging by.
stay as long as you need to, but I know you guys have a lot of work you have to do in a short amount of time.
Yeah.
So feel free if you want to hang out and answer any questions in the chat, feel free. But if you got to run, we got you.
All right. Yep. I'm gonna maybe I'll stay on, but I'll see if there's anything to respond to as I'm working on the side here. So,
All right, we got you. All right,
all
thank you
right.
so
All
much.
right. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
See you later.
All right, Ethan,
Yes.
this sour right here,
Now,
it's lovely.
sours, they are a divisive one.
I know, I know.
They are a
So
divisive one. People have feelings about the sours, you know?
yeah, but this is the Creekside, which makes me feel like, again, we're talking about Hudson Valley, the nice session stout, kind of, the nature, as Kyle mentioned, all the farmland, all the trees. This does have that, like, especially summertime, fresh, it just tastes like fresh raspberries,
Yeah.
which is fantastic, which is what you want. And as I mentioned, like when you're going through and like doing a flight or multiple beers, it can be, oh, I'm gonna do the sour first before the stout. But when doing this, that stout is so light and
Mm,
so easy to drink and so subtle, which is what you want with a 4.5% stout.
exactly.
This does have that strong tartness and that rich, like almost unripe raspberryness,
Mm,
like a raspberry, like a tart, like low sugar raspberry jam. Just kind of hit you right in the jaws.
yeah.
But you're right, they are very polarizing of some people love them, some people absolutely hate them.
Mhm.
Where do you fall?
So I tend to, again, I am a seasonal beer drinker. So a sour, I'm not going to want it in the middle of winter. I'm going to need it during the summer. So this to me feels like a great beer to be having on a day when the heat index is close to 100 where we are, because it's really refreshing and it gives me that kind of like wonderful berry taste along with that intense pucker. And I know that this series that they're doing, the Creekside, they've had a couple of different berry varietals. So I know we're getting a chance to do raspberry, but I know they've had blackberry and they've had a couple other ones that have come out. And I like this one because for me, it kind of it's got a more balanced character to it than some of the sours that I've had that truly make me feel like I'm, like all of a sudden my face is going to squeeze up. And even some of theirs, like I remember I had a blackberry from theirs and it was like very beautifully sour and had
Yeah.
that good sweetness to this. This one feels a little bit gentler in my palate.
Yeah.
Mm.
It's nice. It's light. It almost reminds me of a Berliner Weiss.
Mm-hmm.
Almost. It is technically not a Berliner Weiss because it's not a Berliner Weiss. But it does definitely have that reminiscence of the nice sweetness of the malt of the grain bill that you typically get with that wheat, and
Mm-hmm.
then balanced out with that nice little pucker on the finish.
Exactly.
But
Mm.
it is, same thing, Westkill, they have been, pun intended, killing it.
Yeah. Oh, for
Um,
sure.
I mean, they multiple tap rooms, they're cranking out all different kinds of beers and doing similar as our friends as Kyle mentioned over at Wayward Lanes, doing activities and like being that destination place for people to come to and to visit and do those activities, have that beer, have some snacks, and literally just have a good time. And everything, I mean, they are doing everything from a different pop-up almost every single day. Everything from Caribbean food to pizza, to barbecue, to a tattoo pop-up,
Oh, wow.
and having live music, and again, everything from local DJs to honky tonk to like it all, which I always love. It's like New York is known for having a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
So I think with the brewery being able to also showcase that and kind of live to that history of New York, I think it's awesome.
Oh
It's
yeah, I
great.
mean, I just like Kyle was talking about, and these guys do it too. You know, making a brewery community space, I think, is such a
Yeah.
cool opportunity, and these guys definitely have room for it. I mean, similarly, they are on a huge, I think it's over 120-acre dairy farm.
Yeah.
So we're keeping that kind of thing going. And I think maybe it is the ingenuity of New York, but they are also keeping it a little bit creative with all the things that they've got. I mean, I see cool, interesting things coming out. Funky ales with them, delightful lagers, intense IPAs. Um, and you know, I thought it was so interesting, Kyle talking about the water. They've got all this wonderful mountain water that they have access to,
Yep.
which, you know, as we know, can be such an important part in the brewing process, which is probably why they are killing it.
Yeah.
Again, like you said, no pun intended, with all of their beers. Um, but
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
No, and I think that's the other thing is that we've here on CBTBC and all over, we have had brewers that from all over different cities, and whether that's from here in New York, Seattle, Asheville. But I
Mhm.
think the one thing that kind of sets Hudson Valley apart
Yep,
is the land. And that's because there's a lot of it
that's true.
and they can grow produce. And
Mm,
so both of these breweries are doing something that the breweries here in the city cannot do.
right.
Some of them try with like rooftop gardens and rooftop farms and try to do local produce, get it from the farmers markets. But Westkill is also growing their own cherries, their own beehives,
Mhm.
their own maple syrup, and so they're getting these access to these ingredients that you cannot get in urban areas. I mean, you can buy, but like you're not getting bees out of your warehouse
Right.
in the middle of like Pittsburgh. I mean, maybe you are. No. You do what you can do. But I think that's the one thing that's kind of exciting and unique about these beers is that they do have the access to the nature
Yeah.
to be able to do these fun, kind of unique things because they can.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Well, and the other thing is that, you know, when you're dealing with a brewery that has got this kind of character, of course, they bring their own kind of quirks to them. And one thing I certainly wanted to shout out with Westkill is the fact that they have a brewery cat. His name is Teddy. And he is a beautiful long-haired kitty who has a bit of an Instagram following. So
Really?
if you have not checked out at Teddy the Brewery Cat, you can see him showing off all the delightful beers. And I will be honest, I am a sucker for a brewery cat.
Of course. Yeah, as you
'Cause I,
should be.
you know, and they do serve an important role to keep the mice away from the grain. But I always in you know enjoy when one takes on sort of a life of its own. So much so that I know that there are T-shirts available um, for him as well. So important element of any brewery visit is to make sure that you say hi to the cat that may be roaming and making sure that everything is well cared for.
Well, I mean, whenever there's a brewery cat, I feel like they should always have their own Instagram. They don't
Exactly.
always do.
That's true.
But I mean, that's usually kind of if I know there's a brewery cat, I'd be like, Give me a flight, and now where's the cat?"
Exactly.
Like that I need, and I'm glad that Teddy he has his own following because
Exactly.
I'm sure he's living his best life out in nature, wanders around, and then comes back and does his job. Maybe, maybe he does his job. We'll see.
Yeah.
But I think that's the other thing is like some things that are unique, but then the standards of a brewery cat of just they are they're a brewery and they're doing amazing things in multiple tap rooms. I will say they don't do major distribution.
That is true. They are
And
they can be a little trickier to find, which is why it's always a treat when you get their stuff.
yeah, and so for all of our listeners and all of our viewers, sorry. This is what you get. This is it. You will, similar to Wayward Lane, if you're not in New York, you got to make the trip. They're not going to be, the they're also on that very small beer barrel system. So they're not doing major distribution. But if you want their beer, you got to go enjoy that community, enjoy that culture, and that, that just environment that they're creating with all those fun pop-ups and activities, and to see Teddy, because why not? But it is very, very short if you do live in the tri-state area. I know Jonathan, he's over in Connecticut, so that's just going to be a little trip. You could do it in a day trip, probably, or do a little weekend trip. Definitely worth, you can pop in and out to all these breweries very, very quickly. You might not want to like drive to all of them just because safety. We do want to practice safety. But definitely there's so many you can visit. If you can take the train, that's the move. Just because you might get a little tipsy.
Well, you should if you're doing it correctly. That's probably how this game is going to work. But
I mean, I don't see any other way to visit multiple breweries if you are not tipsy. I feel like you're doing it wrong. Is
Mhm.
that, do you feel the same way, Ethan?
I
I
mean,
feel,
that is the correct move. I think is that you're going to have a full experience wherever you wind up. I mean, again, it's nice of Wayward Lane to make sure that there are dumplings to fill our bellies. But yeah, that's sort of the joy of this thing, right? It's community spaces, it's beer with friends, it's a hot summer day, enjoying a delicious fruited sour like we've got here that kind of pulls you back to remembering part of the reason that we drink beer is not just for the experience on the inside, but also the experience on the outside. Um, I always love, you know, farms that have been turned into breweries because they remind us that beer is meant to bring us together, that it's
yeah.
social. It's part of the reason we all come together to have a beer is to see people and to spend time with people. So that's, I think, why summer and beer drinking in summers in beautiful places, whether it is close to home or maybe further away in the Catskills or up closer to Albany in the Hudson Valley, is probably why this is my favorite time to drink a beer.
I mean, yeah. Plus, if you can go to a brewery that's in the woods, and if they have a campfire, or, it brings back, I know I grew up in the Midwest. You grew up in the Midwest.
Mhm.
Having a bonfire, like Kyle said, doing that tree burning in like January, like that brings back a lot of those kind of, again, not only those communal memories, but like it's like what summer feels like it should be,
Mhm.
especially if you're stuck in an urban area. Go get a breather.
Yeah.
Go have a few hours, take the train or drive, and go to a place that you can relax, enjoy something local, enjoy something fresh, and also, as we always say, drink local, but also support local. But they're also using these ingredients, and, whether it is on their land, which take time to rejuvenate and regrow, or they are getting them from within the state. But it's just that aspect of this history of New York having these hops, having these ingredients, having a large number of breweries in pre-prohibition, and this valley pretty much probably getting close to maxing what that was
Mhm.
now back at that time. uh I think it's just awesome. I think it's a really cool time that we're in, where we do have the highest number of breweries we've had in history. Um, and some of them are just doing fun local things. Um, but yeah, I mean, I'm just enjoying this beer, which, even though I drank the other one a little too fast, I'm drinking this one a little slower. Because does have that tartness to it. But they're also that nice 4.5%, easy to drink. This is what you want in the summer, um, for sure. But before we're just like meandering and just talking about random stuff, which I know you and I could do
We could
for
do
the
for
night.
hours.
We could
Exactly.
do for hours. What is your favorite thing about the Hudson Valley?
Oh gosh. I mean, there's so much to enjoy. And the Catskills are gorgeous. The views are incredible. The mountainous areas are wonderful. Um, but it is a place, when I think you put it really well, but when you're dealing with the hustle and bustle of a city, if you're someone who lives in an urban environment, the Hudson Valley is a place that causes for me what I think of as a drop shoulder experience. I'm able to get to this place, I'm able to see the land around me, see the sky open up above, and kind of just relax a little bit, to kind of open up to the possibilities of space and the beauty that can be in these lovely areas. Um, I have always enjoyed the time that I've spent up there. I've particularly enjoyed the time that I've spent drinking up there. But certainly the people and the space really make it a place where you can kind of remember and ground for a little bit of a moment, especially for those of us who tend to be city dwellers. So I love it. I think that it's a beautiful part of New York State. I think it's a part that sometimes is unappreciated by visitors to our state.
Yeah.
But is definitely worth, if you're coming to enjoy the hustle and bustle of New York City, plan a couple extra days where you might rent a car and take yourself a little bit further up, or maybe take the train a little bit further up and check out the beautiful lakes and mountains and rivers and streams and rolling hills that make New York, New York.
Yeah. And even though it is 150 miles of land, it's still just a small section of the city. So even if you're like, oh, 150 miles, that's so much to visit, it's very little. It's a little
It's
piece
just a
of
slice. It's just a
just
slice.
just a slice. Um, and that's why there are so many breweries in this area, is even though there are some up in Albany, Schenectady, and all the way down Newburgh and further, even parts right on that edge of Eastchester and Westchester, they're right on there. Again, depending who you talk to, those areas are Hudson Valley.
Right.
I'm not arguing they are, arguing they're not.
Mm.
You will leave that to the comments, for people to decide. But that is if you think of 150 miles in other parts of the country, that's sometimes, you know, an hour drive or even less. It just depends
Yeah.
on where you're going. And so it is this small sliver of nature and beauty, and you get mountains and lakes, and as you said, it is that kind of fresh breath, like relief from the hustle and bustle of the city. But for other people like Wayward Lanes, Westkill, like they're there all the time.
That's home.
And that's home. And that's what's so beautiful about it, is that it's home, it's nature, it's beauty, it's just nice. I don't know any other way to just like, it's nice. It's a nice place.
It is a beautiful part of our state, for sure.
Yeah, and it's great, and I 100% agree with you. Anyone that lives in the area, or anyone that's like, I'm gonna go visit all the breweries in New York, which if you want to visit all the breweries in New York, as we mentioned, that's over 500. So good luck. And if you do get to all of them, please let us know, because I will be super impressed, and I want to know the person that's been to every single New York brewery. Um, I've only been to, I don't know if I've even been to 10% of them. How many New York breweries have you been to?
Oh gosh. I mean, it's been quite a few, but I've got plenty more to add on my list. And the little challenge is they keep adding more every single day. So I tend to think about it as, getting to beer, being a craft beer drinker, whether you're exploring the state of New York or the country or the world, is decidedly a marathon, not a sprint. So you got to
Oh,
be along for the ride.
yeah. 100%. And as you said, like, you drink seasonally, I also drink seasonally. There's some breweries that, if they're only doing pastry stouts and you see them in the summer on a tap list at a local bar or tap room, you're like, oh, I might not have that right now. And
Right.
then you never see it again. And then you're like, well, so sometimes you got to be a little adventurous outside of the seasons.
Mhm.
That's not a push to you. It's more of a push for myself. Of like, I haven't had this brewery before. Let's have it. Let's see. I know I'm not anywhere close to having all of the New York or anywhere near the country breweries. But I feel like that's why we're here at CBTBC. We're here to try and allow that aspect to happen for everybody. Try and get as many beers as we can to you guys, and try to see if we can get somebody to have all of the beers from every single brewery. I don't think that's gonna ever happen because so many open and so many close on a annual basis. With over, what are we at, 9,500?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, somewhere around there, right? It's like
I mean, here's the thing. I lose count, but I liked seeing the number go up.
The
We
number
always
is
say
always going up.
we're in the golden age of craft beer, and so now is the best time it has ever been to be a beer drinker.
And if you're not a beer drinker, but you came across our podcast, which I don't know how you did, also, there's cideries in New York, in the Hudson Valley, in other places. Also, shout out to wineries as well. But craft beverages in general, where and whenever you can, wherever you can, of course, we will get you guys the beverages as often as we can. However, try something new. Obviously drink responsibly, especially in the summer months. But just keep drinking. That's all I can say. Do you have any last remarks? I'm running out of
Well, I'll do my
steam.
Well, that's fair. I mean, here's the thing. I imagine it is time to land this plane, but I have one reminder that I always send people out into the world, which is drink more beer, drink local, be kind to your local breweries, and always tip your bar staff.
That is 100% the best advice you can ever give. And it's always a good reminder,
Mhm.
as those of us that work in the industry and work with the staff, keep doing all those things. Especially with all of our, with all the brews that we featured in the box this month, with Westkill, with Wayward Lane. You have to go there to drink locally. There's no other way to drink rather than locally. And definitely do tip them well. Be nice to them. Be kind. With that, I think this is a perfect time to, as you said, Ethan, land this plane. We will come to an end here of Hudson Valley. If you have not drank all your beers, this is not the end for you. That means that you're just going to keep drinking the rest of the beers. But I know that a lot of our listeners and viewers have been drinking, have been enjoying the Kolsch, have been enjoying a lot of the other beers. And I'm just going to say that next month we have even more good beers coming to you
Oh, boy.
guys. I'll just go ahead and say it because I'm
Oh.
pretty sure it's been announced. We will be having some Burlington, Vermont beers.
Hey!
So, we're going back to the roots. Even though this month was Hudson Valley was more of a region of New York, we are going back to a city. However, you guys may see a bit of a change coming forward, as I mentioned last month. We may be in some cities, we may be in some regions. We just want to try and get you guys, as we said, as many of those 9,000 breweries as we can to you guys. And so we're just looking forward to getting you guys more beer, more breweries, and just drinking as much of that local beer as we can together. So with that, I think that is a cheers.
Cheers for sure.
Cheers, good night, and see you all next month.